Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Hello, and welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. I am your host, Meredith Calloway. And on today's on today's episode, my guest is Joan Qualls of Tasteful Voyages. She is a Travel MBA alum. She's gone through our Travel MBA program. She is a West Coaster uh, who is always trying to get us to do our events on the West Coast so she doesn't have to fly so far and adjust to a time change. And she is also, this is a second career for her. She, I'm guessing, could probably be happily retired by now because she had a very successful career in a different industry. But she has chosen the travel entrepreneurial route anyway. So we're going to unpack all of that and really get to know Joan. And so welcome to the show, Joan. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Meredith.
So what is your background, your career background?
So before joining the travel industry, I had 30 years in healthcare finance. I started out actually installing an IBM System 34 in a physician billing office back in the dark ages when we had a
Wow.
room and like 11.5-inch floppy disks.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 5 years. And then I migrated into the hospital side of things. And I was supervising all the registration scheduling staff as well as people doing financial counseling, insurance verification. And then later on, I was actually doing contracting with our hospital and the managed care companies. And ultimately, I was doing a lot of process improvement. And towards the end of my time there, we were converting to the Epic electronic health record. So I was involved in helping to train people, and I was involved in 6 implementations at 6 different hospitals. So
Which,
it was scary, but fun.
yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And it illustrates um, my assessment. I say this about you all the time to other people. Oh, Joan, she's wicked smart.
Well, thank you.
You really are. You're always the best resource too. If you have a question about something, where to get something, who to talk to about something, Joan is the person to go to. She is an incredible wealth of knowledge and is very wicked smart and was very successful in a prior career. So, one of the things that I love about and it makes me so passionate about the profession of selling luxury travel specifically, is that it's a career path for so many different stages of life, walks of life, gender. I've had on uh, moms who are, you know, giving birth to children while they are building their business. And we've talked to people who never took the childhood route, right, and never had kids. And there's people like you where you had a very successful career. You could be kicking back, relaxing, and, sipping on a Mai Tai on a beach somewhere every day if you really wanted to. But you've chosen becoming a travel entrepreneur and selling travel and being a luxury travel advisor. So tell us why. Why are you and how did you stumble upon this journey?
Well, I'm glad you used the word stumble because while you were saying that, I was thinking I am here kind of accidentally. Um,
Okay.
I think like a lot of people who are in this industry, I personally love to travel. And while I was still working, would bank my time off and save my money so that I could take trips. And a lot of people who I worked with and friends of ours didn't travel that much, and they were like, "How do you do it?" And so I found myself frequently encouraging other people to travel, whether it was even talking people through the process of getting a passport for the first time or flying to Europe for the first time. So I was really helping people plan and book travel, but it didn't ever occur to me that this was a career that you could have. And I
Right.
actually retired early. I went through a divorce, and after my divorce, I was able to retire. So I was in my mid-50s, and for a couple of years, I didn't do anything. I did remarry, moved to California from Chicago, and after a couple of years, I was just feeling like I I was still young, like I should be doing something, like I shouldn't just be
Yeah.
thing. And I happened to meet a lady in an admirals club who was a travel advisor, and my husband and I had just booked our first cruise, and she was a cruise consultant, and she gave me her business card, and when we came back from the cruise, we had booked another cruise on there, so I contacted her to help me, and that was my light bulb moment. I was like, "Hey, how do I get to do what you're
What
doing?"
she's doing, yeah.
And that was 10 years ago, and the Travel MBA program was brand new, and she was associated with Gift and Tessa, and she referred me to the Travel MBA program. So I signed up,
Wow.
and I've been doing this for 10 years, been
Yeah.
and for 10 years. So that was my story.
I can't believe it's been 10 years. That's
No,
absolutely crazy.
I can't believe it either. It's gone by really quickly. And I have to say, like, no disrespect to my former industry, but going to industry conferences in healthcare finance industry, here in the travel industry, it's way more
I
fun.
I could not agree with you more. And it's the same is true for finance, right?
Yes.
I used to go to industry events in the, Wall Street industry, I totally agree with you. I mean, going to a travel trade show or going to Virtuoso Travel Week for me is like being a kid in a candy store. It is just so exciting and so much fun. Um,
I
so
frequently use your term about, everything that we get to see, it's all travel candy, and I also say, like,
travel candy.
all of the opportunities that we see on our end of the business, it's our occupational hazard because I wanna go everywhere and I wanna do everything.
Which I wanna talk about in a little bit because 'cause I'm sure you've gone almost everywhere and have done almost everything. So I wanna tap into that in a little bit. But let's go back to so you did the Travel MBA program, and you did it in one of our first years, so it was still relatively in its infancy. Well, not relatively, it was in its infancy.
It was very
And
different then from how it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's evolved significantly since then. Because we learn, and we're always tweaking and we're always improving. So, but with that said, how, how would you say it helped you lay a foundation and do you think you would be where you are today if you hadn't done a program like that?
I don't think so. I mean, I knew about traveling from a traveler's perspective, and this was more the behind the scenes how to book travel, but that wasn't really the most important part. The most important part was about being an entrepreneur and setting up your business and laying the groundwork for that. And I'm sure I've said this to you before. I have a real MBA. I have a master's in business administration, and there is a lot of foundational stuff that I learned in the GTN Travel MBA that I did not learn in business school, which I find really interesting. That was more geared towards, eh, doing balance sheets and,
Yeah,
doing that kind of stuff, more like at a corporate level with a
yeah,
company, not doing your own
yeah,
thing. So I think the foundation in being an entrepreneur is really the most important part of the program. And then I haven't ever belonged to a different host agencies, but I've talked to other people who are advisors in different types of agency models, and it just seems to me like from the get-go in Gifted Travel Network, we're really encouraged to do things the right way from the beginning. I mean, and, even things that seem minor, like having your own email with your business name attached to it instead of having a Gmail at the end of it,
right, right.
things like that, having your own website that I think is just not really emphasized that much in some other businesses, and I think it encourages to really look at ourselves as entrepreneurs and take our businesses seriously.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that is you kind of nailed it. I mean, that's really the intention of the Travel MBA program is I think it's the absolute best entrepreneurial foundation you can find, maybe even outside of the travel industry. And um, we just and you know this, and you're very good at contributing to this. We believe that it's not just content. It's not about, yes, we have modules in our program and we get our travel MBA students to consume the modules. And it's funny how interested people are like, oh, what are the modules? What am I going to learn? And they kind of like think that's the most important part. And I think the most important part is the community, the relationships with the partners, as well as the mentors. So you are incredibly good at contributing to this collaborative community. I kind of alluded to that when I introduced you, that you're just this great wealth of information. Um, can you talk a little bit about where did that come from? Like, why are you so giving, when it comes to that, right? Like,
You know,
where does that come from?
I just really enjoy helping people, and I think it actually comes from my parents. My parents, I grew up in a home that was always very open and welcoming to everybody, and my mother did not work outside the home, and my dad was a psychologist, and during his career, it seemed like he was always, supervising, psychology interns, and so and my parents, even though, when I was young, they were relatively young, they always seemed to have, like, a parental role, and our house was always just an open house for whoever wanted to come by. That
Mm,
was the atmosphere that I was raised in, and that's a value that's very important to me. And it's always, I think, just about, helping people when you can, and it's kind of funny, like, I still sometimes suffer from imposter syndrome, but sometimes somebody will ask me a question, and I know the answer right away, and that gives me confidence, like, "Hey, I really do know what I'm doing here." Um, and I don't know, I just really enjoy helping people, and I mean, tying it back to travel, I just have such a passion for traveling and for and I just when people get to see other parts of the world. I think a lot of people in America are scared to go to different parts of the world, and when
mhm.
that experience, to me, it really makes you understand that people are really the same regardless of where you are, and I feel like, that it would just be, kind of like a more peaceful existence if people were a little bit more open-minded to other cultures and other kind of people. So I it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think it kind of comes from the same place. Like, part of my passion for travel is helping people to experience different things, different people, different cultures, different places. I think it's just really important to being a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I wanna talk about your definition or how you define success for yourself, um, partially because you're in such an interesting, you know, and advantageous situation to some extent where, a lot of people, if they are needing to, uh, replace income that they would be making in their existing career, because they're still raising kids and need to put them through college and need to pay the mortgage bill. And um, it's more standard how they define success.
Mhm.
Um, how about you? How do you define success for yourself and your business?
Yeah, it's an interesting question that you bring up, and this is something that goes back to my early days with you and the Gifted Travel Network team, and it probably was actually at a mastermind where you pointed out to me something that I didn't really ever consider before. So I was very fortunate, after going through my divorce and retiring, I really didn't need to have an income coming in from outside, so I don't rely on this for income. And going back to the mastermind, I think it was you, somebody who said that I had manifested my situation, which I'm pretty, like, down to earth, like, I don't think so much of the manifestation as some people in our community do. But to me, what gives me joy in this profession is when somebody has just a magnificent experience on a trip,
Yeah.
somebody that may not be very well traveled, and when I'm able to facilitate that experience for them, it's just incredibly rewarding to me. Of course, now, as GTN has transitioned to what it was when we started, and we have all these amazing elite partners, and
Yeah.
even like an ordinary booking is going to come with increased compensation to me, that's great. But my best satisfaction is still having a client who's just like delighted in the experience that they're having.
Let's dig a little deep there. Let's unpack that a little bit more. Can you talk about maybe some of your favorite experiences that you have planned for people that and you were able to really shine because of the partnerships?
Well, um, I think the ones that have meant the most to me were probably not really in the luxury realm. It's actually some of my clients who are friends who don't have a lot of disposable income, and I'm able to help them go to Spain, when their kids are still
Yeah.
in school, and I guess from the partnerships that we have and from our community, I'm able to help suggest things that I know that they're gonna enjoy while they're in the destination, even if I may not have been there myself, and to
Mm,
help them curate the trip, and it's not necessarily expensive things. I mean, one of the things that I love suggesting to people is to do a photo shoot in destination, and we have a couple of partners that we work with in that, and actually, like a
beautiful.
side
Yeah.
story, the first time when I did it, one of the leaders at Gifted Travel Network, well, actually, backtracking, we were in Paris, it was right after my mom died, and it was, like, the first ever spontaneous trip that we had ever taken, and somebody from Gifted Travel Network was like, "You're in Paris, you have to book a photo shoot now." So I did, and then I used the photos on my business cards and
Yeah.
showed to you at a Tessa retreat, and you like my business cards, and that was like a red letter day for me. "Oh my god, I love my business cards." But anyway, scheduling a photo shoot for clients, it's not an expensive thing. It's actually an activity because the photographers are taking the clients around to very photogenic sites in the destination. It's, maybe 2 or 3 hours maximum, and the client ends up with a portfolio of beautiful professional
Yeah.
photographs, so it's not the selfie thing. So again, it's not always about the luxury and the most expensive, it's more like figuring out, like, what's gonna be a really good experience for my clients, and
That are not Googleable, right?
exactly.
That you're not gonna be able you won't you don't know what you don't know when you're booking online,
Right.
and you're just trying to DIY it.
But
Yeah.
that said, I mean, we've also, one of the most amazing trips I took with 4 of my friends was through your former company, Hills of Africa, when
Yeah.
we went, and it was the first time for any of us to go to South Africa and Zimbabwe, and Sandy at Hills of Africa put together just a magnificent trip for us. It was just coming out of COVID, and I think a lot of times going to a place like that is kind of intimidating, and having a fantastic partner to figuratively be holding our hand every single step of the way was great, and the places that we stayed were magnificent, and it was luxury. It wasn't, like, awfully expensive, that was actually kind of the surprising part.
Mhm.
That was really, I've traveled a lot, but that was really the trip of a lifetime. So
Yeah.
it's, kind of knowing both of those, knowing how to be able to work with people who maybe don't have so much disposable cash, but they really wanna have that experience, and they're the people who do have the means to have that really special experience, and we have the partners that can help us with both of those, although the emphasis is definitely more on luxury these days.
Absolutely. Partially because the demand for luxury is growing and growing by leaps and bounds, and ironically, the competition, quote unquote competition for those luxury clients just doesn't really exist. I mean, there's there aren't nearly as many luxury travel advisors as there are travel advisors. And, people think, well, I think part of it is because people think, oh, I don't have the network, I don't have the right connections with people who want to travel in luxury. And while it is helpful and it is definitely a bonus if you do have that, it's not a deal breaker. And tell me if you agree with this. Having, been a part of transitioning GTN in much more into the luxury space, one of the things I think we've all learned here is that what's the most important part about being able to successfully sell luxury travel is being associated with a host that has the right relationships,
Oh,
deep, better relationships with the right
absolutely. I
vendors.
think the game changer for Gifted Travel Network was in 2019 when we were accepted into the Virtuoso network. Um,
Mm.
Shortly after that, I had the experience of going to the Virtuoso Travel Week on tour, which is a mini version of Virtuoso Travel Week. Um, and that was just fantastic. And the partners that I met at that were, above and beyond what I had worked with or who I had worked with before. I probably will never work with most of them, but they're in my back pocket if I have a client that comes up that has a need like that, and then that's been expanded so that we have so many hotel elite partnerships, and it's just, my ability to give those clients who are luxury clients a little something extra, a lagniappe, and people, regardless of how much they have, they want to have something extra. They appreciate that.
Yeah.
You can spend a lot of money, but you can still appreciate the value in what it is that you're getting, so
Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and
Um,
I mean, you mentioned earlier, Meredith, just about our network, the Gifted Travel Network in the community, and that's so important too. And we have almost 400 advisors in the network. So if there's some place that I haven't experienced, I know I can, put a question out, and there's going to be 4 or 5 people getting back to me right away with what their experience has been, or who to talk to, or what to do. And that's just such a great support system.
And often it's you that's doing those responses. I'm telling you, Joan is a walking, talking encyclopedia. So actually that brings me to my next question. You developed an incredible skill set in your prior career. And I think people who are maybe considering this whole next chapter of their career, even though, and is it too late to start something new? I don't want to start all over again. A lot of those doubts. I think one of the reasons why they're having those doubts is because they're not realizing how powerful that skill set is and how transferable it is. Um, can you talk a little bit about what skill set you brought and how it's translating into your travel entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I think it was 2 skill sets. One of them was just my love of travel and the travel experience that I had had up to that point. But the other one, I think was more from an analytical point of view. I mean, I was doing, like, a lot of process improvement type stuff at work and a lot of project management type stuff, and I think that that's, like, a very, very
Yes.
transferable skill. Um, and I just had a thought and lost it.
Well, I'll plant a seed or I think there's another one and it's much more of a emotional one or like a personality one, and it may have served you well in your prior career, I don't know, but I think you are incredibly good at explaining something and educating something in a way that makes the person feel comfortable and not dumb or not like naive or
Yeah.
like you said, like how to get a passport for the first time. Oh, that's easy. Let me just walk you through it. Let me hold your hand. Like there is like a lovely nurturing educator within you. Um
Yeah, I think that's right, and, having brought that up, one of the things that's been most rewarding, even though I've been out of the healthcare industry for 13 years now, a lot of the people that I worked with before who I hired and nurtured in their careers, a lot of them have big jobs at different healthcare corporations around the country right now, and several of them have reached out to thank me for being the kind of leader that they wanted to emulate, and that
oh wow.
satisfying as a traveler that has an awesome trip. Um,
Yeah.
One of the things, I mean, always, whatever I was doing, my philosophy has always been, like, if somebody asks, "Well, what about this?" If I don't know, I'll say, "Well, I don't know, but I'll find out." And actually,
Yeah.
PTM community is just like the perfect support system for that, and our partners. I mean, our partners as well. I mean, if there's something the GTM community doesn't know, chances are there's a preferred partner within Gifted Travel Network or out in the Virtuosa network who's gonna be able to help me through that, and generally, most of them are very, very willing and able to help when I get stuck with something that I really don't know.
Yeah. 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 I do love that about our community. It was something that I wished I had all those years back when I was a travel advisor. And so now to see what we've built and be on the other side of that, it really does um help me, really I believe in it. A lot of this mindset stuff that I talk about, I absolutely believe in it. And then when I have these validations of it, it's just it almost makes you feel in awe,
Yeah.
um, because I had such a strong desire for a program like the Travel MBA program. I had such a strong desire to go to travel industry shows where they would put experienced advisors on a panel on stage so that those experienced advisors could talk about how they found that success. Like, how did they become a top producer? And no one did it. And I remember I would get so disappointed when I would scroll through the agenda, trade show after trade show or show after show after show, travel industry show, And it would just be these parades of partners, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's all you learned about at those shows was the partner product training, and, you can get product training up the wazoo, you don't need to go to a travel industry show to get product training. What I was looking for was, um, success secrets, success tips, and how to run a business selling travel.
So what
Um
you said has made me think of 3 things. First of all, what you just said about the products. When I look at social media content from people who are advisors who are not from Gifted Travel Network, frequently what I see is whatever the partners are pushing out, that they're
Yes.
sharing that. And in Gifted Travel Network, we've always been taught, like, we're not an extension of the partner.
Yes.
We're not here to just disseminate their information, so we can still use the beautiful images and things, but we have to put our own spin on it. Another thing with Gifted Travel Network that I really loved about it was that it was a woman-owned company, and the women
Mhm.
that are powerhouses, and that was exciting, and at the time when I came to Gifted Travel Network, the host agency was new, I think maybe a year
Yeah,
old,
yeah.
but you still had Gift and you had Tessa, which were going really strong, and it was funny, like, here, as I was starting out, I would go to industry events, and people would be like they were in Gift, and they're like, "Oh my god, Meredith?" So it was like such a tremendous reputation in the industry, and I just felt so privileged to know be a part of that, and it's a great community. It's a welcoming, nurturing, it's like a family, and I've never really been like a girly girl type of person. Like, most of my friends in my adult life were male, and this is the first time where I've had a community where I really have good girlfriends,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
didn't get it until after my mom died. Like, I was in TESS at the time, and I didn't get it, and when I've had things in my life that have been difficult, this community has been so supportive, and we are to each other as well. So it's a very, very special place.
yeah. Um, have you can you think of any time that you've really, like, had a challenge in this past 10 years, and but you're really grateful that you had that challenge because you learned from it? You got something really cool out of it?
You know, uh, there was a time, this was maybe about 3 years ago, and I don't remember what it was that was bugging me, but I was kinda, like, thinking, "You know what? This just isn't working, like, this is not for me," and it was at the time when, I went on a GTN hosted experience. It was hosted by Shannon Cunningham, and it was a Mississippi River cruise, and at one point, I just said, "Hey, Shannon, like, can I have a word with you?" And we went in her cabin, and I just told her, what I was feeling, and she validated what I was feeling. I mean, she's had her own travel business, and she still is associated very much with Gifted Travel, not in the same way, and she was, like, very reassuring. It wasn't really a pep talk, it was more just a validation of what I was feeling, but I came away from that feeling stronger and more confident, and my business since that conversation with Shannon has just grown. I mean, I'm growing like 50% year over year, and I wouldn't say that I'm a full-time travel advisor. I probably spend maximum 30 weeks, I'm sorry, 30 hours a week.
30
Uh,
hours a week. That's actually great. I'm glad I didn't ask that question, but that's a really good piece of information that's helpful. So 30 hours a week and your business is growing by leaps and bounds
yeah.
since you let go of that. It's almost like you had to give it airtime to release it.
That's part of our GTN thing. We have all these little sayings like that. "Don't give it air, let it go, bless and release." I mean, we
Right,
really
exactly.
frame it,
Yeah. So the voice of fear was louder at that time, and, being able to lean in. I mean, that's so important to be able to have other people to lean into, um, to validate, like, I've actually felt that way too. You're just human, but, there's another, you'll get past this, you'll get through it, and, um, don't let the fear take you down.
Right, right.
Let's talk about, being affiliated with Virtuoso and how that has helped you in your business. I know I for some reason, I remember when we first joined Virtuoso, um, you gave us a testimonial about the Virtuoso marketing and how, powerful it can be, and that you were sending some clients the Virtuoso the magazine, and, one of your clients got the magazine, saw an ad for a river cruise, called you and said, "I wanna book that cruise."
Yep.
Is that an accurate
No, that's
depiction of
absolutely
your
right. The Alma Waterways, they, had a full page ad about their Egypt river cruise, and somebody called me up, and I was actually I was, like, on a hosted thing when they called me, and so I was able to book it, like, from my trip. Yeah, somebody was like, "It's on this page of the magazine, I wanna book that."
just give me that.
And I've signed up, for the Virtuoso, their, marketing support has changed a little bit since, we first came on board in 2019. But I'm still signed up to have them push out some content to my Instagram page. But then also they have a lot of content that they don't push out. I mean, they don't send out everything to everybody.
Mhm.
So you can very easily, if you have something that speaks to your business or resonates with you, we're permitted to go ahead and share that, and that's a really good thing. Going back to that very first, Virtuoso Travel Week on tour in 2019 when Gifted Travel Network was brand new with them, it was also really validating. There were, I think, 5 of us from Deep GTN who were attending the conference, and there were maybe, like, 100 partners there, and so many of them were like, "Oh my god, you're with Gifted Travel Network. We're so happy you're here. We've heard so much about you." And I have not ever gone to the big VTW. I mean, for me, that would be kind of overwhelming, but my understanding is that GTN, we're kinda like small and mighty. We don't have as many advisors as some of the other Virtuoso agencies, but we're definitely a presence, and we have a lot of respect within the Virtuosos from the partner side of the industry, and that really means a lot too, and I have gotten referrals from people who know Virtuoso, and they look up a Virtuoso advisor in their, you know, area, and they can look to see, like, where you've been or what your expertise is. So I actually
Yeah.
have gotten referrals from local people through the Virtuoso website listing.
That's amazing. So it's not a Virtuoso lead, it's just people seeing your profile
Right,
and reaching out to you because they saw your profile. Because that's another question. So, in my role now, I am speaking to experienced advisors who are considering changing hosts, and a common question I get is, does GTN give leads and generate leads and give them out to advisors? And my answer to that is, no, we don't, and here's why. We are of the philosophy that we are here to support the entrepreneur. And if we were to give you leads, we're giving you the fish. We're not teaching you how to fish,
right,
right? And and it's almost enabling. It's almost preventing us from empowering yourself. And so instead of giving advisors leads, we teach advisors how to build a magnetic brand
right.
and how to build a client attraction machine and how to run a business selling travel, and that marketing piece is a very important part. And just going to Virtuoso and say, here, do my social media feed for me is not marketing. That's
Right.
a sliver. That is a marketing system, but that is a very small portion of your complete marketing strategy.
There's
Um,
you just said that, prompted for me to say something else. So in 2019, I went to Cruise World, and that was the end of the year when we had just joined Virtuoso, and Sandy was there, and there were some very high-powered, seasoned, high-producing agents, advisors there who had just joined GTN. SSG was there, and Lisa Marie was there, and Lee Lennon was there, and they were like, "We've been watching you, but we couldn't come over until you were with Virtuoso." So that was,
mhm,
like, a huge game changer, people that liked what Gifted Travel Network was doing, but we didn't have the Virtuoso affiliation, and that's critical to being a successful luxury travel advisor. And I at that time, I remember I was there with, Celeste, and we had the Travel MBA program that was up and running, but just in, meeting, like, after hours at the conference with these amazing women and experienced travel advisors, and they were like, "Yeah, we love that you guys have the Travel MBA program, but you don't have anything to teach us. We've been in business for years, but we can use some of the foundational stuff." So not Sandy, Celeste and I went to Sandy and said, "Here's the feedback that we're getting from these seasoned advisors." And it
yep,
was shortly after that that we started, various iterations of Travel Business University and the Accelerate program, which now I think is included for pretty much everybody who's in Gifted Travel Network.
Yes.
And
It is part of the hosting benefits is
and
the
so
coaching program.
when Gifted Travel Network transitioned to the fee structure where that's included now, we did lose some members, but I think we're gaining people because there are people that may have been in business for many years that never had that foundation that we get through, Travel MBA. So that's, in my opinion, that's a really important differentiator in
Yeah.
Gifted Travel Network with respect to trying to attract the more seasoned advisor.
Yeah. We are, yes, that it was back in, I wanna say the beginning of 23 that we went from a $500 a year annual fee to a $2,600 a year. So it increased 5 times. Um, and really that is what it makes us different than most other hosts that are virtuoso, is that we have that much bigger annual fee. And what's really good about it from the advisor's perspective is that it includes all of your coaching benefits. So you get your traditional hosting benefits, and then you also have on top of that your coaching benefits, the Accelerate program. And a big piece of the Accelerate program is the community and the collaborative community. So you're getting that too. You're getting access to that. But one thing that and since then, you're right, we did lose some advisors because they just didn't want to pay that fee. But that's good attrition because if they can't see the value of paying that, or maybe their business isn't generating enough revenue to cover that, then they're not a good match for us anyway.
Mhm.
So it's all good. It's a very good, form of attrition. But since then, we just continue to grow, and we haven't grown enormously in advisors, but our sales have grown significantly. And I love the statistic that Jen shared, our CEO, Jen Cochran, shared at our conference last month in Orlando, our 2025 conference. She said if you take out our travel MBA students, and the reason why you take them out is because they're still in that first year of the business, and you average the sales of all of our advisors, it's about $600,000 per agency,
Mhm.
um, average, which is a very high average sales, very, very high average for sales. And we are way higher than most other hosts. Not all. There are other hosts that are up there with us. And so there are other options. But I just love that because it it's yet again, it's one of those stamps of approval and validation that what we're doing and the coaching that we're doing, the community that we're creating absolutely translates into more successful businesses for people. So I love that. All right, so we're getting close to the um, top of the hour, top of the 45 minutes. Um, why don't you tell me a little bit about, um, my favorite question? Um, you get to experience all kinds of things that you would never have experienced if you weren't in the business. So what is one of your favorite pinch me, oh my God, I can't believe I get to do this for a living moments?
So I think actually one of them was the most recent one, and you were in the same corner of the world recently too. Although it was different means of transportation, we went on an expedition cruise from Iceland to Greenland and back to Iceland. And the first day, we sailed out of Reykjavik, and then it took a day to get to Greenland. And the first day we were out in the zodiacs in Greenland, we saw polar bears, and it was just like
Oh
so.
my God, I can't even imagine seeing polar bears in the wild.
It
Wow.
was amazing, and the cool thing was that the ship we were on Swan Hellenic on the Vega, and the ship was anchored kind of far away, but the captain actually spotted the polar bears through his telescope on the ship, and then he was radioing the expedition leaders on the various zodiacs where to go, and we saw one that was just kind of sitting on these rocks, like, looking at us, and then there was another one that was laying down, and then there was a mother with 2 cubs. That was we were the farthest away from them, but that was, like, the most exciting, and I learned on this trip that polar bears are one of the few mammals that consider humans to be prey, so we were kept at a very
Really?
distance. Yeah, we were in the zodiacs, like, we didn't go on land, but when we did do wet landings, you had to wear these boots and you go up in the zodiac and you step out in water, like, they pull them as far up on shore as they can, but before they would let any of the passengers get off the ships, they have the expedition leaders go out and they're scouting the area in Greenland to make sure there's no polar bears, and while all the guests are out on the ground, they have people, like, up in ranger positions with rifles, like, always looking to see if there's a polar bear coming, because if they come, you've gotta, like, skedaddle and get back to
Wow.
the ship and get out of the danger zone. But that was I mean, it was so recent, but that was just absolutely breathtaking, and
Yeah.
have even, known about that or known how exciting it was. So now I wanna go to Churchill up in Canada to see the polar bears up there. So,
More expedition cruising for Joan. I can see it in your future.
yeah, we are
Um,
going to Galapagos, next year, which is something I've wanted to do for a long time on an expedition cruise. So
very, very I'm actually curious what other animals do see humans as prey. I'm, like, mentally thinking about it. Maybe crocodiles? I don't
it could be I'm trying to remember. I know they told us, I think there's 3, maybe lions. I'm not sure.
Yeah, could be lion or maybe one of
Oh,
the
no, it's
cats.
not lions, it's one of the maybe it's tigers, it's one of the big cats, yeah.
Yeah, one of the big cats.
That sounds about
Um,
right too.
yeah, that sounds about right, definitely. Um, so I'm gonna ask you one more question before we close, and that is, if there is somebody who is listening and thinking about, like, this whole second career path, what would you tell them? They maybe they have the same passion for travel but they have all this doubt about starting over, and do I really want to do that, and is it even worth it?
So I would say, um, a lot of people are coming into Gifted Travel Network or into the travel industry in general from another industry, and a lot of people come into the industry where they still have their full-time job because they are relying on the income from the full-time job. So I would say that's okay, you can ease into it. Um, you can learn a lot, I mean, having a program like, the Travel MBA is very helpful and very supportive, but you can learn a lot, in your own time too. I know currently the Travel MBA is very structured, it's a year-long program, but that still gives people the opportunity over a year to kind of ease into it. Um,
Mhm.
you're an entrepreneur, you're running your business your own way, so it is possible to ease into it, and that's perfectly okay. You don't have to, like, sink or swim. You can
Yeah,
really, like, learn how to swim and figure out what feels right for you.
yeah,
Um, and I would say, like, the nuts and bolts of booking travel is really not that difficult. You need to learn about the different partners and how they work, and one of the things that I think a lot of us in Gifted Travel Network do is that we find partners that we work with who are offering the destinations or products that our clients want, and we kinda stick with the same partner. So we get to be subject matter experts with that particular partner, and that does make it easier. And the other thing is just in the Gifted Network travel community and Virtuoso community larger and our partners, there's just such a wealth of knowledge. So if you
mhm,
don't know what the answer is to something, there's gonna be somebody who's gonna be able to help you figure it out. So
right,
I would say don't be scared. The other thing is that, um the cost of entry into starting your travel business is relatively low compared in my
mhm,
opinion, compared to other businesses. I haven't ever started another business, so I don't really have a
mhm.
comparison, but I know when I started, I mean, I paid for the Travel MBA program, I printed up business cards, and that was kinda like that was about it, I went
Yeah,
I mean, it was the cost was a pretty low barrier to entry in the industry.
yeah, 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 I love it. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a lot of good inspiration from someone who has always helped out all the advisors here at Gifted Travel Network. And I mean, it wasn't meant to be a commercial for GTN, but Joan, you did a pretty good job of singing our praises. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for guiding me through the questioning. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to today's episode. We'll see you on the next one.